Today, I wish my wife would join me in this cruise. So we're going on this cruise now. Sydney Harbour cruise. We are now leaving Circular Quay, Gargi. This is the place also called Sydney Cove by the Europeans. This is the location where the first fleet first landed and raised the British flag. You can see the old British passenger terminal. One of my favorite places to go now. Today, Circular Quay is the transport hub of Sydney, which is bounded by the world-famous Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. The Sydney Opera House stands on the place called the Bennelong Point, a worldwide design competition which was won by the Danish architect John Urson in 1957, showed a groundbreaking sketch of the building that looked like a regatta of yachts sweeping down the harbour. Looking down the historic Woolloomooloo, this is the final departure point of soldiers for both world wars. It is now located and developed to be a mixed residence of 5-star hotels and South Sydney's trendiest restaurants. You can also see along it here the Garden Island, which is towering cranes. For decades has been home of the Royal Australian Navy. The island ahead is called Clark Island. It's named after Lieutenant Ralph Clark, who was a first officer in the First Fleet who planted a garden here which was tended by convicts. We are now cruising past Double Bay, which is renowned for its elegant boutiques and cafes. For the locals, it's also known as Double Bay because of the high-income earners who live here. The next one we're looking at is Point Piper, probably the most exclusive address in Sydney. The location is named after Captain John Piper, who is a collector of customs and duties for Sydney Harbour. He was also known as the Prince of Australia. The next bay on the list is called Rose Bay, which is the largest bay in the harbour. During the Second World War, hundreds of flying boats took off from here, including massive troop transports. Rose Bay is quiet now, but between 1938 and 1950, this was Sydney's international airport. At that time, all air travel between Australia and the rest of the world was made in enormous flying boats. metallic structure at the edge of Brady's Head is not a tower or a crow's nest, but the original mast of HMAS Sydney, a light cruiser that saw action in the First World War. It, she remained in service until 1930s until she was eventually scrapped and the fighting top was placed at Brady's Head as we see it now. From here we can see Taronga Zoo, officially opened in 1916 as a form of entertainment. The modern zoo now focuses on conservation. It features some of Australia's most unusual animals like the kangaroo and the platypus. Cremorne Point is a popular picnic spot for city-siders. McCallum Seawater Pool is located near the ferry wharf and is a restored 1920s seawater swimming pool surrounded by a wooden deck and overlooks the harbour, perfect for those long, hot summer days. A little lighthouse marks Robbers Point at the tail of the harbour's suburb of Cremorne Point. A century ago, the government decreed that all land within 30 meters from the water should be public property. So one can enjoy a lovely walk from Mossburn Bay right around Cremorne Point all the way into Shell Cove. In the middle of the bay, we can see an island fortification called Pinchgut Island. It was used as a prison island and Pinchgut was derived from a Navy slang referred to the starvation of the country which had endured or meager rations when they were in the island. Now it's called Fort Denison, which is part of the Sydney Harbour National Parks. The charming house in front of us with its twin green gables and matching chimneys is called Kirribilli House. In 1956, Kirribilli House was set aside as the residence for use by the Australian Prime Ministers and when they need to perform duties and extend official hospitality to on behalf of the government during stays in Sydney. When the Prime Minister is in residence, we can see the Australian flag. The grand house next door is with its great veranda and 6 matching white chimneys is called Admiralty House. For many years, the building played host to admirals commanding the naval squadrons in Australia. Today, it is the official Sydney residence of the Governor-General of Australia. The royal family and other dignitaries such as the President of the United States and the Pope were entertained in the Admiralty House while they were in Sydney. We are now approaching 2 harbour crossings. First, the Sydney Harbour Tunnel, which was descending up to 20 meters below sea level and was completed in 1992 at a cost of $560 million. As for the harbour bridge, as namely called the coat hanger, well, it's much more inspiring structure and represents a symbol of Sydney alongside the Opera House. The harbour bridge was finished in 1932 after 9 years of labor. Just beyond the harbour bridge is Lulu Park, a Coney Island-style fun park which was first opened in 1935 and closed in 1979 due to a ghost train fire accident. In 1996, it closed again because of noise complaints. And in 2004, and a tourism history have had many redevelopments and upgrades. The smiling face in front of us is an iconic and up-to-date. There have been 8 different faces. The timber wharves and jetties in front of us now is called Walsh Bay. It was once the shipping hub of Sydney Harbour. As we head under the bridge into Circular Quay, we can see Dawes Point. This is a favorite place for wedding photographers. The pins in front of us is actually what is supporting the weight of the harbour bridge. So the entire weight is supported by the 2 pins here in the south and 2 pins in the north. We are now approaching the Rocks District, which is the birthplace of Sydney. It is where the European colonists came ashore in 1788. These first arrivals were a rough mix of soldiers, sailors, and convicts, and their hands was what built Sydney. As we disembark into Circular Quay, now ends our harbor cruise.